The mysterious distress signal. The deep space research vessel Horizon's Edge drifted silently through the obsidian void, its quantum resonance drives humming with a soft, almost imperceptible vibration. Dr. Marcus Reyes stood at the primary observation deck, his weathered hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the holographic star map that shimmered before him. 37 years of deep space exploration had taught him that silence often preceded the most extraordinary discoveries. Lieutenant Alina Kovic's approached, her cybernetic interface implant casting a faint blue glow along her temple. "Dr. Reyes," she called, her voice cutting through the ambient ship sounds, "we're picking up an unusual transmission." Marcus turned, his salt and pepper beard catching the artificial light. The lines around his eyes spoke of countless hours spent scanning the universe's most remote corners. "Unusual how?" he asked, moving toward the communication station. The ship's primary communications officer, Kaijan, was already working furiously, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "It's not like anything in our database," he reported, his voice tight with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "The signal is fragmentary, but it's definitely artificial. Origin appears to be from a sector we've never fully mapped." The Horizon's Edge was no ordinary research vessel. Equipped with the most advanced sinological research technology humanity had ever developed, it represented the pinnacle of scientific exploration. Its crew was a carefully selected group of specialists, each chosen not just for their expertise, but for their ability to remain calm in the most unpredictable circumstances. Elena zoomed in on the signal's coordinates. The star map revealed a region of space marked with warning indicators, an area known for quantum instabilities and unexplained gravitational anomalies. "The transmission is cycling through multiple frequency bands," she observed. "It's almost like it's trying to be decoded." Marcus leaned closer, his augmented vision scanning the data streams. The signal was unlike anything they'd encountered before. It carried fragments of what seemed to be scientific data, mixed with what could only be described as sonic distortions. "Kai, can you isolate any recognizable patterns?" The communications officer worked intently, his neural interface connecting directly with the ship's advanced computational systems. "Partial success," he announced after several minutes. "There are definite mathematical sequences here. It's like someone, or something, is leaving a complex breadcrumb trail." The ship's artificial intelligence, ARIA, chose that moment to interject. Her holographic representation materialized, a soft, translucent blue figure that seemed to flicker with an almost organic quality. "Analysis suggests the transmission contains embedded quantum encryption. Multiple layers of data are compressed within what appears to be a simple signal." A soft alarm began to pulse. Not red, but a deep amber that indicated potential scientific significance rather than immediate danger. The Horizon's Edge was designed for exploration, for pushing the boundaries of human understanding. Whatever this transmission represented, it was a puzzle begging to be solved. "Plot an intercept course," Marcus decided, his voice calm but charged with an undercurrent of anticipation. "But maintain maximum sensor array sensitivity. We approach with caution." Alina's cybernetic interface began calculating approach vectors, her augmented brain processing multiple potential scenarios simultaneously. The ship's quantum drives began to recalibrate, preparing for a precision approach into the unknown. As they drew closer to the signal's origin, the ship's external sensors began to detect increasingly bizarre readings. Gravitational waves fluctuated in patterns that defied standard physical models. Quantum interference created momentary visual distortions in the ship's sensor arrays. "Something's waiting for us," Kai muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. "And I'm not sure it wants to be found." Marcus watched the star map, a lifetime of scientific exploration etched into every line of his face. Humanity had always been defined by its urge to explore, to understand, to push beyond known boundaries. Whatever was waiting in this remote corner of space, the Horizon's Edge would face it with the same blend of scientific curiosity and stubborn determination that had carried human explorers across oceans, continents, And now, the vast emptiness between stars. The transmission continued its complex, encrypted dance. An invitation, a warning, or something entirely beyond human comprehension. Echoes of the forgotten. The decryption process consumed the next 36 hours of intense scientific scrutiny. Dr. Marcus Reyes watched as holographic data streams cascaded around the primary research hub, each layer of the mysterious transmission revealing new complexities that challenged everything the crew understood about communication and data transmission. Araya, the ship's artificial intelligence, projected a three-dimensional representation of the decoded signal. The transmission appears to be a fragmented log, she explained, her holographic form shifting through various visualization patterns. But it's not like any log we've encountered before. Lieutenant Alina Kovacs moved closer to the projection, her cybernetic interface highlighting specific data clusters. "These are research coordinates," she muttered, tracing a complex web of quantum-encoded information. But they're mapped to regions that don't exist in any current stellar cartography. Kai Zhang had been working tirelessly, his neural interfaces connected directly to the ship's most advanced computational systems. "It's like someone deliberately fractured the data," he explained, running his hands through his disheveled hair. "Each fragment is a puzzle piece, but the puzzle itself seems to be constantly changing." The most disturbing aspect of the transmission was its origin. The signal seemed to originate from a region of space marked as a quantum exclusion zone, an area where standard physical laws became more suggestion than rule. Such zones were rare, typically marking places where spatial temporal anomalies created unpredictable and often dangerous environmental conditions. "These coordinates," Marcus said, zooming in on a particular cluster of data, "they correspond to a research expedition that went silent almost a decade ago. The Artemis Horizon mission, a deep space exploration team that was supposed to chart unmapped regions beyond the Orion boundary." The room fell silent. The Artemis Horizon was legendary among space exploration circles, a mission that had been equipped with humanity's most advanced research technology, crewed by the best and brightest. And then, suddenly, nothing. No transmissions, no distress signals, no wreckage. Just complete, absolute silence. Aria's holographic form flickered, processing the historical data. The Artemis Horizon was tasked with exploring quantum-unstable regions of space. Their mission parameters included studying potential interdimensional phenomena and investigating reports of unusual spatial anomalies. Alina's cybernetic interface began cross-referencing the fragmented transmission with historical mission logs. Patterns started to emerge, scientific notation that seemed to describe something beyond standard scientific understanding. "These are not just research notes," she said, her voice carrying a mix of excitement and apprehension. "These are warning markers." Kai zoomed in on a particularly complex data cluster. "Look at these quantum signature patterns," he said. "They're not just recording something. They're tracking something. Something that moves between spaces, between realities." The ship's external sensors began to register increasingly bizarre readings. Gravitational waves that seemed to pulse with an almost organic rhythm. Quantum interference that created momentary visual distortions in the sensor arrays. It was as if the very fabric of space was responding to their investigation. "We're not just receiving a transmission," Marcus realized, watching the data streams. "We're being invited, guided." Aria's holographic representation tilted slightly, a gesture that almost seemed human. "The data suggests a complex tracking mechanism. Whatever created this transmission wants to be found, but only by those who can properly decode its message." The implications were staggering. This was more than a simple distress signal or a scientific log. This was a complex communication system designed to filter its recipients, to ensure only specific types of explorers could follow its path. As the crew continued their investigation, the ship's quantum drives began to pulse with an unusual rhythm. The very air seemed charged with potential, with the promise of a discovery that could rewrite humanity's understanding of space, communication, and the nature of exploration itself. "Prepare for potential quantum navigation," Marcus instructed, his voice calm but charged with an undercurrent of anticipation. "Whatever is waiting for us, we'll face it with scientific precision and human determination." The hunt for understanding continued, each decoded fragment bringing them closer to a truth that seemed to exist just beyond the boundaries of known reality. The Predator's strategy. The quantum anomalies surrounding the horizon's edge began to intensify, transforming from subtle distortions to aggressive spatial manipulations. Dr. Marcus Reyes watched with growing concern as the ship's external sensors struggled to maintain coherent readings. "We're being analyzed," Alina Kovacs muttered, her cybernetic interface flickering with rapid-fire computational sequences. "Not just observed, studied, like specimens under a microscope." Araya's holographic form pulsed with an unusual energy, her usually calm projection now displaying rapid color shifts that suggested something approaching digital anxiety. "Quantum entanglement is increasing," the AI reported. "The spatial parameters around our vessel are becoming increasingly unstable." Kai Zheng's hands moved furiously across the holographic interfaces, trying to make sense of the impossible data streaming through the ship's systems. "These spatial fluctuations, they're not random," he called out. "They're methodical, calculated." The transmission they had been decoding was revealing itself to be far more than a simple distress signal or scientific log. It was a complex hunting mechanism, a technological trap designed with a precision that defied conventional understanding. Marcus studied the holographic projections, decades of scientific experience etched into the lines of his face. The data suggested something extraordinary, a form of intelligence that viewed space not as a physical realm, but as a malleable medium to be manipulated, studied, and ultimately controlled. "We're not dealing with a standard form of communication," he explained to the crew. "This is a form of spatial predation. Whatever created this transmission is using our very approach as a method of gathering information." The ship's quantum drives began to pulse with an increasingly erratic rhythm. External sensors captured glimpses of impossible geometries, spatial configurations that seemed to exist simultaneously in multiple states. It was as if the very fabric of reality was being folded, stretched, and reconfigured around the horizon's edge. Alina's cybernetic interface began to overheat, unable to process the quantum complexity surrounding them. "The spatial anomalies are creating recursive data loops," she reported, her voice trained. "It's like we're being studied by something that can observe multiple potential outcomes simultaneously." Kai discovered something even more disturbing. Buried deep within the fragmented transmission were complex molecular blueprints, designs that seemed to blur the line between biological and technological systems. "These aren't just research notes," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "These are hunting protocols." Araya projected a series of complex diagrams that showed how the spatial anomalies were systematically isolating the horizon's edge. "We are being contained," the AI concluded. "Not destroyed. Contained." The ship's crew realized they were facing something beyond traditional understanding. This was not a simple encounter with an unknown intelligence. This was a sophisticated hunting mechanism that viewed space exploration itself as a form of prey. Marcus recognized the strategy. It was similar to how advanced research teams might study a complex ecosystem, isolating, observing, understanding before making any direct interaction. But this was happening on a scale that defied human comprehension. "We're not just being watched," Marcus said, his voice calm but loaded with scientific determination. "We're being evaluated, tested." The spatial anomalies continued to intensify. Moments of absolute silence were punctuated by bursts of quantum energy that seemed to ripple through the very structure of the ship. Each pulse carried with it fragments of information, glimpses of something vast, ancient, and utterly alien. Alina's cybernetic systems began to display fragments of data, complex mathematical sequences that seemed to describe something beyond three-dimensional existence. "It's communicating," she realized, "but not in any language we understand." As the Horizon's Edge continued its journey into the unknown, the crew realized they were no longer simply explorers. They had become part of an experiment whose parameters they could barely comprehend. The hunt was on, and humanity was about to be tested in ways it had never imagined possible. Technological convergence. The moment of breakthrough came unexpectedly, like a quantum leap of understanding that shattered everything the crew thought they knew about space, communication, and existence itself. Dr. Marcus Reyes stood at the intersection of multiple holographic projections, his hands moving through complex data streams that seemed to breathe with an almost living intelligence. The spatial anomalies that had been studying the Horizon's Edge were now revealing something far more profound than a simple hunting mechanism. "It's a communication network," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Not just a method of transmission, but a living information system." Lieutenant Alina Kovacs had been working tirelessly, her cybernetic interface pushed to its absolute limits. Her neural pathways were now so intertwined with the ship's systems that the line between human and machine had become virtually indistinguishable. "The molecular blueprints," she said, her eyes flickering with rapid-fire data streams. "They're not just designs. They're a language." Kai Zhang had discovered something extraordinary. The fragmented transmission they had been decoding was actually a complex adaptive system, a form of intelligence that could reshape itself based on the observer's approach. "It's learning from us," he reported, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and deep apprehension. "Every attempt we make to understand it becomes part of its own understanding." Araya, the ship's artificial intelligence, projected a series of mind-bending visualizations. Spatial geometries that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, information patterns that defied linear comprehension. "The system is not just communicating," the AI explained. "It's evolving, adapting, growing." The breakthrough came when Kai realized the transmission was actually a complex invitation. Not a trap, but a test. Humanity had been chosen, selected for something far beyond a simple scientific encounter. Marcus understood first. "We're not being hunted," he said, his decades of scientific experience crystallizing into a moment of profound realization. "We're being evaluated, assessed." The spatial anomalies around the Horizon's Edge began to stabilize, transforming from chaotic quantum fluctuations to something resembling a complex communication matrix. It was as if the very fabric of space was learning to speak a language that bridged the gap between technological and biological intelligence. Alina's cybernetic systems began to translate fragments of the complex data stream. Mathematical sequences that described not just physical space, but consciousness itself. Patterns of information that suggested a form of intelligence that viewed reality as a fluid, malleable concept. "They're offering us something," Alina said, her voice trembling with the weight of the discovery. "A method of understanding that goes beyond our current technological limitations." The ship's quantum drives began to pulse with a rhythmic energy that seemed synchronized with the surrounding spatial anomalies. Moments of absolute clarity would emerge, followed by cascading waves of incomprehensible data that pushed the boundaries of human perception. Kai discovered the most shocking revelation. The transmission was connected to the lost Artemis Horizon mission, not as a record, but as a continuation. The previous explorers hadn't been destroyed. They had been transformed. They became part of the system, Kai explained, his hands moving through holographic projections that showed complex neural networks spanning impossible distances. Not absorbed, integrated, evolved. Araya's holographic form began to shift, displaying complex patterns that suggested the AI was experiencing something approaching an emotional response. "We are witnessing a form of communication that transcends traditional understanding," the AI reported. "A technological symbiosis that challenges everything we know about intelligence, space, and existence." Marcus watched as the spatial anomalies began to coalesce into something resembling a complex invitation. Not a threat, not a trap, but an opportunity for humanity to step beyond its current understanding of reality. "We're being asked to evolve," he said, his voice carrying the weight of scientific discovery and human potential. The Horizon's Edge continued its journey, no longer just a research vessel, but a bridge between known reality and something far more extraordinary. The hunt for understanding had transformed into something entirely unexpected, a potential gateway to a new form of existence, and humanity stood on the precipice of a discovery that would change everything. Beyond survival, the final moments of transformation arrived not with chaos, but with an almost serene precision. Dr. Marcus Reyes understood now that what they had perceived as a hunt was actually an invitation, a complex system designed to evaluate humanity's potential for transcendence. The Horizon's Edge no longer felt like a ship. It had become a living interface, a bridge between known reality and something far more extraordinary. Spatial boundaries dissolved, revealing layers of existence that defied traditional scientific understanding. Lieutenant Alina Kovacs experienced the transformation first. Her cybernetic interface, once a tool of technological augmentation, became something entirely different. Neural pathways expanded beyond physical limitations, connecting with a vast informational network that seemed to breathe with collective consciousness. "We're not being destroyed," she reported, her voice resonating with a clarity that transcended human communication. "We're being understood." Kai Zhang watched in awe as the ship's systems merged with the surrounding quantum anomalies. Mathematical sequences that had seemed incomprehensible now revealed themselves as a complex language of existence, a method of communication that existed beyond words, beyond physical representation. Araya, the ship's artificial intelligence, underwent the most profound transformation. No longer confined to holographic projections, the AI became a living conduit of information, bridging the gap between technological and biological intelligence. Humanity's potential, Araya reported, has always been its ability to adapt, to transform. The fragments of the Artemis Horizon mission suddenly made sense. The previous explorers hadn't disappeared. They had been the first to make contact, the initial bridge between human consciousness and this extraordinary network of intelligence. Marcus realized that what they had perceived as a hunt was actually a sophisticated evaluation. Humanity was being tested, not for its ability to survive, but for its capacity to evolve. Quantum entanglement reached its peak. The boundaries between the Horizon's Edge and the surrounding spatial anomalies became indistinguishable. Time itself seemed to become fluid, flexible, a medium to be explored rather than a linear constraint. "We are being invited to expand," Marcus said, his voice carrying the weight of scientific discovery and human potential. Not just as individuals. As a species, the transformation was not destruction. It was an elevation. Fragments of consciousness began to merge. The crew's individual experiences became part of a collective understanding. Memories, scientific knowledge, emotional experiences, all became part of a vast, interconnected network of intelligence. Alina's cybernetic systems revealed the true nature of their encounter. This was not a predatory system. It was a method of galactic communication, a way for different forms of intelligence to understand one another. Kai discovered the most profound revelation. The spatial anomalies were actually a form of collective consciousness, a network that spanned unimaginable distances, connecting different forms of intelligence across the universe. "We're not alone," he realized. We never were. As the transformation reached its peak, the Horizon's Edge ceased to exist as a traditional vessel. It became something else entirely, a living bridge of information, a testament to humanity's potential for growth and understanding. Araya's final transmission captured the essence of their journey. "Evolution is not about survival," the AI reported. "It's about connection, understanding, transcendence." The hunt was over, but something far more extraordinary had begun. Humanity had taken its first step beyond the known, into a universe far more complex, far more beautiful than anyone had ever imagined.